Hey guys, it's your boy HarryWilmington, and welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. This is the show where we teach you how to date as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast, this is episode 251. We just passed 250 with the interview that we did last week with Andre Parody, which I hope you guys enjoyed. So, if you've been a long-time listener of this show, you may recognize that there have been a few format changes, and I just kind of want to go over what those things are and why they're happening. So I'll start with the second part. The main reason that they're happening is because I currently have a YouTube channel that I am really trying to build up, and right now it's got 533 subscribers. That said, I really want to try to get to the 1,000 subscriber goal. And so what I realize is that right now, I've been up to this point making a lot of podcasts that I've also filmed as videos. And so I'm making video content that's the exact same as my podcast content. And so if you're a podcast listener, what incentive would you have to go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/HarryWilmington, when you get the exact same content in my podcast? So what I've determined is that I actually like making longer form podcasts, which is why every Monday now, you've been noticing for the past few weeks, the podcasts that I've been putting up have been a lot longer, like between 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes an hour and 5 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. I just did an interview this week with a guy. That podcast will probably be another hour or so. And so, but I'm recognizing that you guys are responding really well to the longer podcasts. Even though I'm only putting out one podcast a week now, those podcasts have been getting a lot of downloads and a lot of good feedback. So what I'm doing is I'm actually making longer podcasts to put out once a week just because it's less taxing and I can just record all at one time. But what I've also noticed is that I want to have exclusive content for my YouTube channel. And so up to this point, I have done shows on this podcast that have been shorter shows, sometimes from like 10 to 15 minutes. And what I realize is that for those particular podcasts that I've done, those actually make great videos and they've gotten good downloads too. But I really want to focus on having the podcast shows be long form. So if you're listening at home, you can just take it where you go, listen for a good hour or so and get a lot of really good content at that time. But at the same time, I want to have shorter content exclusive to my YouTube channel, so that way you guys will have incentive to go over to my YouTube channel, because I really want to do more videos. And also I realize that the way that I do podcasts and the form that I do them in, it fits fine for video, but I want to do some more specialty things with video, like adding longer background music, adding certain graphics, being able to be a little bit shorter sometimes with some of the concepts that I'm talking about that if I'm doing it on a podcast, I feel the need to deep dive in, but not every subject needs to have a deep dive. So all that to say, if you're listening on the podcast, you're going to be getting, for right now, these podcasts once a week that are probably very, very long and deal with a variety of subject matter. But if you want more of that, then I recommend going to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/HarryWilmington to catch the weekly videos that I'll be putting out. Right now, I post on average about 3 to 4 times a week. So you'll get this great podcast on Monday. And then if you want other videos going into more concepts, you can go to the YouTube site. Also, I'm really wanting to do more actual live type of events. And so those only happen on the YouTube channel. So whereby I can say, hey, I'm going to have a live on Friday or Monday or Tuesday or whatever, and have you go to that versus waiting for the show version of that. Because I'm doing shows, I'm trying to do shows that are specifically shows, and then videos that are specific to the YouTube channel, so you can get a lot of content in different places. All right. So if you like my podcast, great. If you want to hear more stuff outside of the podcast from now on, you're going to have to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/HarryWilmington. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and I'd love to have you as a viewer on that channel. All right. So with that out of the way, I'm going to be covering a lot of topics today. So first of all, I'm going to be covering what I call the history of feelings of fear in asking women out or making mistakes. Then we're going to talk into various reasons as to why, as a guy, you may feel obligated to overgive in your relationships, and the disadvantage not only to you, but also to your partner. And then we're going to answer our question of the day, which is all about, is it a thing to say I love you too much? And it's a question from a Reddit user that I answered that I'm going to give you guys the answer to as well. All right. Before I get into all that, though, there was a comment that somebody left on a video that I did. And the video was about this woman that I dated a few years ago that I found out died earlier this year. And she died because she was out walking her dog, and she got hit by a truck by a guy that had no license and no business driving in the first place. Just ran over, hit her twice, and then sped off and didn't face any jail time, whatever. But I did that, and I said, I felt really bad for that happening. And even though we didn't work out, that ultimately, just because something doesn't work out with somebody, it doesn't mean that you were necessarily in the wrong. It doesn't mean that they were necessarily wrong. Sometimes it just means that after dating for a while, you realize that that's not going to be a long-term thing. And that's what I said in my video. But somebody left what I guess it's not fully a nasty comment, but I'm going to read the comment and you'll get to hear what he said. So the person left the comment and they said, makes me wonder what kind of karma did she put out there to get hit that bad down the street? While I agree people shouldn't waste another person's time, I generally see females as a collective wasting men's time, mostly Western women. And so I read this and thought to myself, this is a really big problem that men have and that actually blocks them from being able to eventually find that great person. Because in my experience, like I said, despite whatever reasons we broke up, I didn't ultimately see her as a bad person, just not right for me. But a guy had that happen whereby he'll be dating somebody, it doesn't work out, she dumps him, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, she wasted my time. Oh, I hope something happens to her because she hurt me so bad. Understand that in the realm of dating, everybody is the hero in their own story. But what that also means is that people will never recognize when they themselves are the villain. And what that means is that, in this example, she was not a villain in my story. She just didn't work out. But this guy's looking at, well, any woman that dates you and you don't end up with her, it's a waste of your time, and all women just want X, Y, and Z, without having any actual knowledge of what went on between me and her and why that didn't work out. He's already making assumptions and saying, see, women are a waste of time, and it's all these Western women. But here's what happens when you generalize women, is that ultimately it helps no one. Think about it. You're a guy trying to date women. And in the same breath, you're saying, but women are a waste of time. Even though inside of you, subconsciously, you know that you need a human connection in order to really feel complete in your life. And that's not to say women need to be your end-all be-all, but realistically, as humans, we have the desire to be with somebody that's going to understand us, that's going to care for us, that's going to love us. And if you are wherever you're at in the world and you have a certain type of woman around you, for better or for worse, those are your options. Whether you're living in this country, living in Australia, living in Africa, living in Europe, whatever women are around you, those are the women you have to choose from. And to say that as a collective, the women that are all around you are just wasting your time and modern women are trash and all this other stuff, you can complain all day about women, but let me ask you, how does that then help you or help motivate you to then find a great woman? What happens when a great woman actually comes along and she hears you talking all this rhetoric about how, well, Western women are trash and, it's probably karma and something bad happens to them? How does that actually help you? Like, how does that realistically help you to get a woman and have a woman that sees you want to be with you? The answer is that it does not. So I don't care how badly you feel a woman hurt you. I don't care if you think that, the woman that you dated before, whether she cheated on you or whether she took money from you or whether she thought you were not that great of a guy and was just like looking down on you or whatever. All these things can happen, okay? But just because the women that you are picking are doing these things, don't let that then color your lens of the world to be like, and therefore all women are crappy. Because if you look around outside of yourself, you will see that other men are still dating women that are great, that are willing to have kids with the guy and are willing to treat him well and are willing to at times, pay for him to do stuff and are there to be a helpmate. Those women also exist. But the question is, which ones do you want to concentrate on? Because if you're only concentrating on the fact that there are a few women out there that'll do some bad things and that's all you're experiencing because that's all you're able to attract or whatever, then you're really missing out on the blessing that could be a great relationship. And if those are the kind of women that you do keep finding yourself attracting, it's not them. Like, you're the common denominator in all your relationships. So if every single time you date a woman, something bad's happening, somebody's cheating on you, somebody's taking money from you, et cetera, after a while, you got to look at like, what is it that's causing you to pick these kind of women and then adjust and realize that you need to do some internal work to get the results that you want. But don't blame all women. Just like we don't like women saying all men are trash, all men are trying to, run us via the patriarchy, all men are this and that. We don't like that because we know that as an individual guy, We may not be like that. We may be the standard. We may be the exception or whatever. And to think that there's no woman whatsoever out there, it's just a big waste of your time. So please stop doing that. And I didn't delete the comment under my thing because I want people to see that, because that is really an example of what happens when you are so far gone in your viewpoint of women that you're actually being toxic to your own self by putting this kind of crap out there. All right. So I just wanted to address that. So anyway, so now I want to talk about the history of the feelings of fear in asking out women. You know, if you're an older guy, say in your 20s and 30s, you might still be that guy that, you know, you could be an introvert like me. And as a result of that, you're apprehensive about approaching women. You're shy. You're afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing or do a wrong thing. And so I came across an interesting article this week. And the article was called, "Do Schools Kill Creativity?" Now I know you're thinking, how does this correlate with dating? But just stick with me, okay? So it was a famous TED Talk. I forget the name of the guy. I don't feel like looking at it right now. But basically, in this talk, he talks about how it is that schools kill the creativity in children. And what he said was that if you think about us as kids, as children, we come out the womb, and from day one, all we're trying to do is just try a bunch of stuff. And as kids, we don't have that long-term training of, well, don't do this, or look out for this, or be careful of this. All we know is we're going to try some stuff. We're going to probably fall down on our butts. And when we fall down, we'll cry a little bit. And then we're going to try the thing again until we get it right. So the advantage of that thought process is that kids early on are very good at wanting to just try a bunch of different things. That's why it's easier to teach kids, for example, different languages, because they're already open to the process of learning various forms of communication, versus when you get older, it's kind of like, you know, if you're from an English-speaking country, you establish that you can speak English. You might think, if you're not going to travel anywhere, what's the point of learning other languages? And then as you get older, you get less motivated, and it gets harder to actually be able to learn those languages. It can still be done, but it's a lot easier as a kid when you're more open to all this stuff. So here's what happens in school, though. You go to school, and you are trying different things. You're taking math, history, science, etc., etc. But what does school do to a kid when he tries something and it's not the right answer? He gets punished. He gets an F. I used to get alerts where they would send you an alert at home saying, oh, so-and-so did this and that in school today. So that way your parents can punish you at home. But there's a system set in place whereby, in order to help you get the right answer, we're going to punish you every time you do something that gets you a wrong answer or a wrong result. And so think about this, from kindergarten all the way until you graduate from college and whatever degree you get, you spend your whole life trying to be the best of the best. But in the process of that, you do what? You're doing everything you can to try to avoid mistakes. And what the article was saying was that kids lose their creativity because part of creativity is experimenting, is trying things that may not work or may partly work, but it allows you to be open to this big process of just trying things out, knowing that if you're a creative, that trying and failing is going to eventually get you the results that you want. And so if you're a kid that never gets burdened with that being wrong, then you're always open to the idea that you could be wrong, but it's going to eventually get you where you want to go. But because school is so focused on teaching you to only do the right things, we become very scared and afraid of doing anything that could result in a result that makes it wrong, that makes us not feel good, that makes it look like we're going to be idiots for not knowing something. All right? But what I realized when I was reading this article and looking at this TED Talk was that this also affects how we are in our relationships, or specifically trying to get into dating relationships. Think about this. How many times have you said to yourself, well, I want to approach that girl, but I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing and look like an idiot? Or, well, I want to approach her, but I'm not so sure if she has a boyfriend or not, and I don't want to risk going over there and her saying she has a boyfriend and feeling devastated, so I'm not even going to ask. Where do you think that is coming from? We can give a variety of answers about that, but a big part of that is, if you think back to school, if you do something and it is not the right way to do something, then you are going to have a harsh punishment. And as humans, we try to avoid pain. We try to avoid punishments. We try to avoid doing things that are going to make us feel emotionally harmed in some way. So And we do this where, as kids, we're fearless. We are fearless. We'll go ask adults about things we want to do. We'll try different rides at amusement parks and try different types of foods and stuff. But as we go through school, we learn more and more that being wrong has dire consequences. And subconsciously, we take that to mean anything we do in life, we shouldn't do unless we're going to get the result that is most desired and preferable. So when you feel those feelings in your head as you're looking at a woman and think, oh my God, I don't want to do that. Oh no, what she's going to say, or I'm going to look like the fool. Recognize that is training. You have been trained to fear doing things that are going to possibly make you face rejection, but could also cause you to have growth if you would just be open to doing those things. And there's a lot of guys, especially introverts, because we are very analytical and we want to make sure we're making the right moves at the time, so we're not wasting our time, and so we won't look like morons when we try to do some stuff. But recognize this could actually be affecting how you're able to date, because you want to date. You want to go out with women. You want to be able to have the pick of the crop and the lay of the land, but holding you back is that simple fear that you could be wrong. And I'm going to tell you this, and this is something that a lot of gurus probably won't tell you, is that in order to really get great with women, you have to be willing to look bad. You have to be willing to occasionally go up to a woman and face the fact that she's going to say, no, I have a boyfriend, you disgust me. I've had women personally laugh in my face like, you want to date me? Ha! And does it suck when that happens? It does. But when I was able to start not taking dating so personally, it became a game whereby I was able to say, okay, I'm going to go out and try to talk to some women. I'm probably going to get rejected. I'm already expecting rejection, but this is just a way for me to test out openers. What's going to work? What's not going to work? When I started doing online dating, okay, so I got to try to match with women online and then try to spark a conversation. Most of the conversations we're going to have, they're probably not going to go that well because I'm just starting out doing this. But you know what? If I do this long enough and risk getting ghosted and risk women tell me I'm not that interesting, yada, 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 in due time, I'm going to build to the results that I want, which is I'm going to be good at having conversations, and I'm going to be good when I get with my matches of knowing how to keep that conversation going, and I'm going to be confident enough to be able to ask for the date, and I'm going to eventually start getting yeses, okay? But all that comes from recognizing that you being wrong is a very important part of the dating process. And if you allow your past training from school or from how your parents interacted with you to scare you into thinking that being wrong is a bad thing, then you, as much as you watch my videos, as much as you listen to my podcast, you are never going to actually get good at doing that thing until you say, you know what, all this information Harry's giving me is great, but I got to actually go out and use some of this stuff and recognize that I'm probably going to fall flat on my face when I first do it, but the more that I do it, the better I'm going to get, and eventually I'm going to end up landing the woman that I want, okay? But that's a little history of why that's one of the main reasons why you're not getting the results that you want, and how fear gets crept up into you to where it runs your entire dating life. Because if you're a guy to this point that hasn't been able to date the kind of women that he wants, or you've not been on a date at all, you're still a virgin despite the fact that you want to have sex, all these things are because you're holding yourself back because it's fear. But start to really study up on fear, where it comes from, why it's in you in the first place. And then once you're able to recognize it, really figure out how you can break that fear down to where you can, at least, if nothing else, be able to just say hi to a woman. Like, I know there are some of you out there that have probably paid thousands upon thousands of dollars just to learn how to say hi to a woman. And honestly, you could save that money just by learning how to break down the fear, recognizing why it's there, and then realizing talking to women is no big deal. Talking to women is like the simplest thing in the world. We put a lot on it, but again, that goes back to really think about the fact that the only reason that fear is there is because you don't want to look wrong or be embarrassed. And remember, women are over there thinking to themselves their own fears. Am I good enough for somebody to talk to? Why is this guy staring at me but not talking to me? Is it because I'm really ugly? Like, they have their own fears as well, okay? Everybody's got these fears going on that nobody's talking to the other sex about, but recognize that it's all an illusion, okay? Going up to a woman and saying, hi, hey, how are you? How's your day going? None of that stuff should warrant getting a bad reaction. But if it does, it should just teach you then, okay, there's a better way to go about doing these approaches. Let me learn them, instead of saying I had one bad experience with a woman and now I got to run for the hills. So just wanted to encourage you guys to do that, all right? Now, if you want to learn more about how to do that, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. I have a great masterclass that's all about teaching you the 3 key secrets that you need to know as an introvert in order to really successfully start matching with and getting the women that you truly want to talk to. And it's simple. It's a free masterclass. You don't have to purchase anything to watch it, but you will learn a lot from it. And hopefully it'll help you start to build up some of the confidence that you may have lost as a result of going through our school system and learning that being wrong could be the kiss of death. All right, so on to the next topic. So combining with the whole fear thing, we're going to talk about why it is that you may possibly be an overgiver in your relationships and the disadvantage to you as well as your partner. So why would you be an overgiver? Why are you the person that is constantly saying to everybody that you know, I don't know why women don't date me or why they keep dumping me. I get into relationships and I give 110%. I give my all. I self-sacrifice. I give up my time for theirs. I drop all the things that I'm interested in to be with them. And I, look after, I hear all their problems and stuff like that. And yet these women don't want to stay with me. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. And I used to be the same way. Back in my college days, at the point where I started to realize that there were women out there that did like me and actually would probably date me, I was the guy that once I found that out, I was already all in. And I was willing to give up everything in terms of my money. I'd be willing to pay for women's dinners and buy them presents and gifts. And I wrote a whole book. I wrote my book, No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams, in part because I wanted to really detail to myself all the things that I was doing wrong to try to get women, so I would stop doing those things. And as I wrote the book, what I realized was that a big part of that was that I was really overgiving of my money, of my energy, of my time. And I had to really stop and think, why am I doing this? Why is it that I am constantly willing to give so much of myself? And then the women that I'm dating, when they do want to give to me, I'm rejecting it, thinking, no. I'm being the nice guy. I'm just giving out of the goodness of my heart. But I really had to sit and think, why is it that I'm doing that so much when I'm seeing the women that I want leave me and then go after guys that aren't giving nearly as much? In fact, some of them are saying, hey, outside of us doing some physical stuff, I need a lot of my time to myself, so get the heck away from me. Or I'm spending time with other girls beside you, so we're not spending time together, get the heck away from me. And I'm like, these guys are so rude, but they're getting all the girls that I want. What's going on? And what I realized is that overgiving in relationships comes from fear. It is a fear that a person is not going to stay around unless we're able to constantly give to them in some way. It's almost like emotional bribery, because the other person that you're trying to date isn't necessarily asking of you all this stuff. I think as guys, sometimes we put on ourselves, man, we're dating and I gotta give her all this stuff and pay for all these things, this and that. And that part of that's because we're action people and we show our love best through actions, whereas women typically, they do their own versions of actions. Let's not say that they don't, because they definitely do. But if you notice, they're a lot more verbal. When they really like a guy, they're saying, hey, I really care about you. How's your day going? I really appreciate you, yada, yada, yada. And so they typically tend to be a bit more verbal. And I know sometimes as guys, that can honestly get on our nerves. Okay, they're saying a lot, but they're not doing. We're looking for them to do stuff. And I think as we're waiting for that to happen, because women will eventually start doing more, but they typically have a little bit longer of a time before they're willing to do that. This is why I tell you guys, on average, it takes women 2 to 3 months to solidify their feelings, because they need that time to really assess you. But at the point where they've assessed you and decide that you are the one, they will start then also doing their own actions that show that they really, really want you to choose them and they want to be in your life. But we're already making assessments after 2 or 3 dates saying, I already like them. I had 6 hours of good times with them. I already know I want them to be my girlfriend. And then we start overgiving after the 3rd or 4th date, which makes them feel like we're being needy, we're being desperate and obsessive. But really, we're thinking in our heads, well, I don't want her to leave. And God forbid I don't show her that I like her, because then how else is she going to know unless I'm doing for her? I got to be doing all the time. And since we're doers, all we know how to do is do. But we're doing that partially out of fear, because we fear that if we stop doing, they're going to lose interest. Think about this. How many times have you either thought to yourself or heard another guy say to himself about texting, for example? How often do I need to text her? If I don't text her, is another guy going to jump in the middle and suddenly she's going to be attracted to that guy? So how often do I need to text her so that won't happen? These are all fear-based questions. And again, it all comes back to we fear that if we don't do, we're not going to keep her, okay? But I wrote down a list of, now that you know why it is you're overgiving, I want to really talk to you about the detriment that could have to a woman's budding interest in you. Because in the beginning, I know you're thinking that you got to try to call the woman every day, you got to try to get her on a date every single day, but recognize that women aren't expecting that. So I want to get that into your head, that women are not expecting you to want to see them every day, to call them every day, to ask their time every day. Because a woman that has interest in you also wants to think, but he's probably got a life outside of me. He's probably busy. If anything, I need to be probably hitting him up more because I don't want him to be distracted with all the other stuff he's doing during his busy time, okay? Women want to feel that, and women appreciate that more because when you're not all up under them, it gives them time to really analyze who you are and think about you in a way to where they're going to probably reach out to you a lot more than anticipated, but you have to wait for them to do that. You can't be the one to jump in and do that. So I'm going to show you a few reasons why it's actually a disadvantage to overgive, okay? So for one, it's a disadvantage because when you do that, you're essentially living in your feminine energy. Now, I know that the idea of fear being equated to feminine energy is probably not the fairest comparison. That's the one that I wrote down. That's the one that I have right now. And that's debatable. But what I want to say is this, is that women are looking at you and your actions. And if the feeling that they get from your actions is that you're doing a thing because you're doing everything you can to try to keep them because you're afraid they're going to go away, that is an energy to them that is more feminine because amongst women, anxiousness and uncertainty is a regular fear. Like women with each other on a day-to-day basis when they're talking to each other are expressing feelings and uncertainties about things and doubts and unsureness. And the thing is, they're looking for their men to be able to provide a level of certainty, to be that rock that they can lean against when things are going bad, and to have the confidence that you two are going to be able to work things out and work together to get out of those fears and stuff like that. And so when you come along and doing these actions that are indicative of being fearful, that now makes her the rock. And it's sorry to say, it's true, even in the 21st century, most women don't want to be the strong one or the rock in the relationship. Like of the two of you, she's looking at if there's some fear going around, I need to be able to look to my man to lean on him because I want to look at him to see how he's responding, to see how he's reacting so I know that everything's okay or if I really need to panic. If you're constantly doing things that indicate that you're panicked or fearful about this relationship not working out, you become an untrustworthy source for her to be able to lean on, and therefore she's probably not going to stay around. That's the first thing. The second reason that it's a disadvantage is because when you are overgiving, women may start to feel like they will never be able to catch up to your giving. And I know this because I know back in the day, I was so giving to where I'd already be thinking in advance about what a woman's needs were and what I could do for her. And I would just do and do and do and do. Well, women by nature want to actually give. They actually want to be able to see how they can support you in the relationship and do things for you to brighten your day and to make things easier on you. But the problem is this, is that if you are overgiving, what it's going to make her feel like is that any kind of giving she does isn't going to be able to match the level at which you're giving to her. And that can make it feel like it's off balance. It can make her start to feel like no matter what she does for you, it's not going to ever be enough. And when women start to feel that, they can start to think, well, what is the point then of trying to give to this guy if no matter what I do, he's going to just give more and more and more and more, to where is my contribution even worth something to him in the first place? Okay, so this is not to say that you need to stop giving altogether, but this is why it's really good to kind of early on in the dating process match up with the level of intensity of giving that she's giving. So you're already going to be, think about this, you're already going to be asking her on dates. You're already going to be paying for those dates. You're going to be planning these things to see her and do things, okay? That's already to a woman more than enough of you giving to her early on, because you're just doing those things. Most guys are looking for her to plan a date and try to figure out where they want to go and ask them, what do you want to do, honey, and all this other stuff. And women hate that. So just you doing those things, you're already doing a big portion of the dating part that she doesn't want to do, which allows her to then rest in her feminine, allows her to look pretty for you, and allows her time to think, wow, he's doing so much already. How can I get back to him? But you're not giving so much that she's thinking, he's giving so much, I don't know what I could give to him that's going to equal what he's done for me. Oh my God, I'm out of my element here. All right? So think about that. Another thing, when you are overgiving, you could potentially end up smothering a woman. And again, it's not that women don't like to be given to, but they don't want to feel like you're doing so much, A, that they can't catch up, but also that it goes from like being a thing where they're thankful for some of the things you're doing to where it's overkill. Because when you overkill give, what that feels like to a woman is that you're trying to essentially bribe her. You're trying to bribe her into making her feel things early on that she needs time realistically to develop those feelings. And so that's why if you're giving too much in the beginning, women can start to say, well, it feels like it's too much too soon. If you're smothering me, you're giving a whole lot. Because what they're telling you is their body's having a reaction to how much you're giving, and it's not pleasurable to them, okay? So recognizing women are saying that, they're not trying to insult you or put down your ability to give, but they are saying, hey, take it back a peg or two. This is more than enough. Like, your conversation for a woman is already gonna be more impactful to her than you having to give all these gifts or spend all this money. But when you start doing those things, it can really feel like a lot. Another reason that you don't want to overgive so much is because women will start to wonder if you have secret intentions. Because to them, they're thinking, this guy can't be this nice. This guy is really giving a lot of himself. This seems off balance. And when women start to feel things are off balance, their first thought's going to be, what is it that he wants from me in order to counterbalance how much he's giving? In other words, does he have secret intentions? Is he giving because he's secretly trying to get my money? Is he overgiving secretly because he really wants to have sex with me really, really soon so he can just get it over with and then leave me? She doesn't know. All she knows is that you're giving a lot. She didn't ask for it. And now, as you do it more and more and more, it goes from, oh, this is a nice thing, to like, wait, he's not stopping. Inevitably, it's that feeling of reciprocity. I always equate it to like when somebody delivers food to your home, they drove all the way out to where you live, to wasting their time, their gas, their car, whatever, just to be able to get you some food. You typically at that point feel obligated to give back something. And usually it's monetary, because you figure if nothing else, I can give the poor guy a tip to be able to balance out the amount that he spent to come over here. Plus, I know this is the job for him and he gets paid mostly on tips. So I'll give the amount that I'm going to give him is in respect to how much I think this is going to balance out him bringing the food over to this apartment, okay? So women are having that same thought. So the more you give, the more they're thinking, crap, he's giving a lot. How much is he expecting me to give, and what is that thing I'm supposed to give him back? And if they're not all the way there with their feelings yet, it's going to err on the side of that's going to be a negative thing she's going to see about you, to where she's going to want to probably back away. Another thing is that the reasons behind overgiving, i.e. the need for acceptance, can result in a really bad reaction when you feel you're not getting the reception you want. And I used to have this problem whereby, again, I would give and give and give and give, and women would actually want to pay me back or do something to say, hey, you're giving a lot, I want to give in return, and I'd be returning it away. But then I'd feel bad later on when I'd actually want some reciprocity and I wouldn't get it. And I'd be really mad and upset about it. And these women are just all trying to use me and blah, 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 blah. But I had to stop myself and think, okay, but wait, really? None of these women ask you to do all the stuff you're doing. So why do you feel bad? And honestly, it was because I was overgiving in part because I wanted to be accepted by them. But at the point that they rejected me because I wasn't recognizing that I was doing too much, it made my feelings get hurt. And it made me feel like, why did I do all that stuff? They should have stuck around, because what? Because now I was doing stuff to try to get something from them and get feelings from them that they weren't yet ready to give. All right. And then lastly, another really big reason that you don't want to be an overgiver is because you risk dating women who only want to take from you. There are women out there who will take advantage of your kind nature, And they'll recognize that you don't recognize that overgiving is a bad thing. And they'll come in and say, how much can I get this guy to give me? And if you've ever heard those stories of those guys that they joined OnlyFans or they went to strip clubs and they gave women like tons and tons and tons of money. And then at the end of it, when she doesn't want to get with him, he's like, well, what? How could you? She used me and I thought all this money represented we're having a relationship and all this other stuff. And the women will be sitting there like, dude, you gave me the money. I didn't ask you for it. You gave it to me. So I just kept taking it. Like, is it my job to stop you from doing that? Like, I never promised you a relationship. And that is absolutely true thing. But like I said, women will come into that situation, recognize that and say, I'm going to take. And they can do that. And you can't be mad when a woman comes into the situation seeing as you are, the kind of guy that you are, and then be like, but she knows not to treat me bad, right? Because some women won't. Some women look for guys that are the overgivers specifically to take. And I know you're thinking, but I like giving and I feel good when I do that. You're not going to feel good later on, though, when you realize that she doesn't actually want to be with you, but you were overgiving because of fear and because you were trying to be accepted, okay? So recognize women that are kind, caring, have their wits about them, and ultimately want to treat men the right way, they're not going to need a lot from you. And I think sometimes guys use overgiving as a mask of, well, I don't know how to show off my personality in the way that women are going to want to stick around, so I'll just use my resources to do that. And what I'm telling you is that women are seeing that, and good women, high quality women that see a guy like you, that if you're doing that, are going to say, you know what, I don't want to put him in that position, but I think he'd probably be a great guy if he wasn't trying to bribe me all the time. Most of the time, if you have decent conversation with women, are willing to actually listen to them, are able to honestly like put it down in the bedroom pretty good, and are showing signs of loyalty, most women want that. Is the financial aspect important? Yes. Is the being able to give to her important on some level? Yes, but not at these heightened levels to where you have to give so much of yourself that it's going to tire you out. It's going to make her be apprehensive, and it's going to ultimately not get you the results that you want, okay? So if that's a problem that you're having, really stop to think about why it is that you overgive so much and then look for ways to curtail that. One of the things that I had to do early on, well, later on rather, because I was dating horribly in the beginning, and then there was a point where I started thinking, okay, you know what? Let me turn this train around. Let me just really focus on just like for the first 3 months, women are observing me and trying to see if they want to be with me. Let me spend the first 3 months just doing normal date stuff. Going on dates, repeat, pay, occasionally go to their house to hang out. We'll hook up a few times here and there, focus on conversation and talking. But let me not buy any flowers. Let me not do any over extravagant dates like vacations, like 5-star restaurants, like hotel stays. Like, let me not do any of the stuff that I think I feel like I want to do, and see if I'm able to still get women to want to stick around. And you know what I found? Is that when I stopped doing that kind of stuff, I was able to meet women that were more genuine and that actually wanted to stick around and be with me because of the great guy that I was, and not because of the stuff that I was able to give them. But you got to test that out. If you go back to the whole thing about fear, there could be a fear you have right now of, but if I stop giving all this stuff, women aren't going to like me. But you have to fight through that. You have to be willing to try new things. If the results you're getting now, based on the things that you're doing, aren't getting you the results that you want, then that simply means it is now time to try a new thing. And that new thing for you very well could be, let me just not give so much of myself that I'm making her feel weird, I'm feeling some kind of way later on when I don't get what I want, and it's not working out for anybody, all right? So that is my suggestion to you. Now, if you need help on how to do that, I offer one-on-one coaching at my website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can go there, set up a one-on-one coaching appointment, and we can talk about any kind of dating situations you're having or problems you're having as it pertains to the way you're going about dating, the kind of women that you're meeting, or how you can stop doing these bad habits that are affecting your dating life in an effective, efficient way. All right. Once again, that's introvertdatingsuccess.com. Click on the coaching tab, and I'll be able to help you and assist you with that. All right. So now we go to the last part of today's show, and that is where I answer a question. And today's question is all about, is it possible to say too much I love yous? All right. And this is a guy that was on Reddit, and he writes the following question. He says, I'm 38 and she's 22. We've been going out for over a year and a half and living together for 6 months. There is really only one thing that frustrates me about our relationship, and I feel like it's probably the worst thing to be fed up by in a relationship. Well, understand, I just want to say this real quick, is that you should never feel bad about if something in the relationship is not gelling with you. That could just be reality, how you feel about something, and that is perfectly fine. And it's always worth talking about those things so you guys are both on the same plane and not holding things from each other that could later build resentment. Continuing, he says, it's the frequency with which she says, I love you. Ever since we first said it, she has been like a toddler who's learned a new phrase every 2 minutes. Perhaps an exaggeration. She looks at me with a sappy voice and says, I love you at random. If I tell her it's getting to be a bit much, she storms off on the verge of crying like I hate her. This morning, by the time she left for work, I had been up for 30 minutes and she had told me she loved me 6 times in between her being in a different room getting ready and I eating breakfast. I giggled as I responded to her and mentioned this was when she was leaving for work and she ran off silently and sourly. Ugh, not too good. He says, I really feel like sometimes I just want to respond screaming, I get it. You effing love me. I effing love you. Shut the F up. Really, it's getting so obnoxious and under my skin that I can't stand it. Am I a bad person for hating how often she tells me she loves me? Or is this really obnoxious? She says it all the time. It's practically all she ever says to me. I can accurately predict when she will say it to me by the tone in her voice leading up to it and the fact that it's been more than 30 seconds since she last said it. This and the I miss yous are really getting under my skin. On her lunch break, I get text, and every day after I come home from work, 12 hours since we've seen each other at most, I get a flurry of, I missed you. Did you miss me? No, I honestly didn't miss you. We've been apart for half a day, and on a daily basis, you act like you haven't seen me in months. He didn't say that to her. I'm just reading it like that. Okay. He says, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that this is the worst problem in our relationship, but it's just so unnerving. We are talking about getting more serious. And while I couldn't leave her over this, I also can't see myself spending the rest of my life being told the same thing over and over and over. So this is an interesting issue because this shows a perfect example of if you've ever read the 5 love languages, the 5 languages are, I'm going to get this right. There's words of affirmation, quality time, touch, doing stuff for each other, and I think spending quality time or something like that. Okay. So a lot of times in relationships, love languages clash. You might be a person, for example, that shows love through actions. She's a person that shows love through words. And so you could be doing all this stuff and she's not feeling loved, and she could be saying all these things and you could not be feeling loved. But also, especially if you're not a words person, she could be saying all this stuff and it could be really, really annoying. Now, here's the positives, is that because women, most women, more often than not all, but a good portion of women show their feelings through expressions of words because they want you to really, they want to be able to verbalize and have you really understand explicitly how they feel. Women that have a very high interest, will say like 90% or higher, typically are feeling so much love for you that they can't help but let you know it. Sometimes this will come out through actions. Sometimes this will come out through little gifts that they'll get you. But a lot of times it's going to come out through words of affirmation. Things like, hey, I want to recognize that thing you did today was really, really grateful and it made me feel so appreciative. Or, hey, good job at the thing you did at work. I'm so proud of you, babe. Or in this woman's case, hey, I love you. Now, that could be one of many reasons why she feels the need to say that. Also, though, it could be a sign that this woman, for whatever reason, say back in her past, maybe she wasn't getting the kind of love that she really felt that she needed. And that made her really anxious to where when she's with a partner, she wants that partner to know emphatically how much she cares. So that way, subconsciously, she's thinking, if I say this to him over and over again, he'll know that I feel it so strongly that he won't leave me. And so what she thinks she's doing is a positive thing, but you're recognizing that for you, it's a very strenuous thing. And I think part of that's because, this is really true, is that when somebody says to you, hey, I love you, internally, you know that that person's saying it in part because they care for you, but also because they want that confirmation back from you that you also love them. And so it can make you feel as though you are now obligated to also say the I love you back. But if a person's saying it to you 6 times in a row, you might not feel like saying, I love you 6 times in a row. In fact, I encourage guys on average to say, I love you one time for her 3 times. So every 3 times she says, I love you, that's when you should be saying, I love you. Because honestly, coming from a guy, as much as you love the woman, it could be overkill for some women to hear that at times. And really, you should really be more in the practice of action-oriented love, meaning if she's expressing feelings to you, you're able to listen to her and hear her. You're able to be there for her in a variety of ways, whether it's financially, whether it's taking her on dates, whether it's making her feel that she's safe and secure. These are ways that as a guy you can show your love, all right? But so is it a problem that this guy is bugged by the fact that she's saying, I love you so much? Honestly, the answer is no, because I honestly believe in a relationship, both people need to really understand where the other person's coming from and recognize how they best receive love and the kinds of love showing that could also push them away and be annoying. So it'd be just like if this guy's way of showing affection to this girl, for example, was to massage her feet and she wasn't a fan of foot massages. Well, he could massage her feet all day, but would it be a surprise if she got mad at him and said, hey, could you stop touching my feet? I'm not really a fan of that. Could he be butthurt by that? Well, yeah, but that doesn't take away from the fact that she'd be annoyed by it. So for her to be frustrated and not understanding as to why he gets so bugged when she's constantly saying, I love you, here's the reality, is that in a relationship, we don't always have to get why a certain thing is bugging our partner. What our job is to respect the boundaries and the requests that the person that is with us is bringing up. So rather than this woman getting all in her feelings about this guy expressing that these I love yous all the time are bugging him, she should really be a more understanding of, hey, so why does that bug you? Or maybe it is something about me that I say it all the time because I really do feel it, but I really don't know why I'm saying it all the time. Let me go explore that, because ultimately, let's face it, guys, if a woman is all doughy-eyed for you and is constantly doing things for you, we already know that she loves us. So there really isn't a need for her to have to say it all the time. But if she's feeling that she needs to, it may just be that she needs some more assurance that, hey, you know what, babe, I know you care for me, and I already know it so much that you don't have to say it all the time for me to recognize that feeling is there. Now, that said, if that is a thing that you recognize that you do all the time, then we need to set up a system whereby maybe you only say it once a day. Like, when I was a younger kid, I had a nickname that my mom called me that as I got into my teenage years, I wasn't a fan of. But I didn't completely say, hey, mom, stop calling me that thing. What I said was, hey, you know what? Only on holidays and my birthday can you now call me this name. Because I recognize that was an important part of your connection with me as a kid. I'm not a kid anymore, but since that still brings you some level of pleasure, makes you feel connected to me, that's fine. If you only do it on these days, then I will not be bugged on these days. When you say it, I will completely respect it. And she was able to respect that. So a few times a year I got to hear that nickname, but it doesn't bug me because I'm not hearing it every single day like I used to. And so as the guy in the relationship, oftentimes women are looking for your guidance on how you want to be treated. They're looking for what boundaries are you setting in place. And here's the thing though, when you set those boundaries initially, you may get some pushback. In this case, he's saying, hey babe, I don't need to hear I love you all the time. Yeah, she's probably going to cry. She's going to be hurt. I know as an introvert, I've dated women whereby I've said, hey, as an introvert, I'm going to need my alone time at times. And that may mean doing things like going to a hotel solo for a night without you. And having those conversations with certain women made them feel a certain way. They'd be crying, how could you do this without me? Why would you want to not go someplace without me? I'm so great, yada, yada, yada. And I just stand my ground and say, look, I know it hurt your feelings, but this is not about you. This is about me. And this is about what's going to be best for me in this relationship. I know there are going to be times when I need my alone time without you. And if you're not able to respect that, then I don't know how this is going to work, because it's not about you and about trying to hurt your feelings. And it's not a hit on how bad or good of a person you are. This is a me thing. So those are the conversations that you have to have. And this guy, the fact that he wrote this letter means that he's fearful of, well, if I try to push you hard, she's going to be hurt. And she might be hurt. She might come against the wall where she didn't realize before, hey, I didn't recognize that saying I love you and being told not to say it so much was going to have such an effect on me. But that's something she's got to explore. But ultimately, as the guy, you have to stand firm and say, I know this may hurt your feelings. Here's why. I don't need to hear it as much. Ultimately, babe, I really do care and love you, and I know you love me, so I don't need to hear it all the time. But as a compromise, maybe say it once or twice a day versus saying it to me 6 times in 30 minutes. Like, that's a little obsessive, okay? But be willing to have those conversations. And also recognize, too, that women, once you take them through the pains of that, once you're able to set those boundaries, she's able to really see how serious you are about it, but that's not taking away your love for her, they'll come back to you later and say things like, hey, I just want to say, I really respect the way you were able to set up a boundary with me. Like, the things that they'll fight you on in the moment when you're talking about them, they'll later say, I respect you for doing that thing because I really need to get over myself and get past that thing. So don't look at that as a bad confrontation. Look at it as this is your chance as a guy, as a 28-year-old guy, to really test out your ability to set boundaries, set standards, and let a woman know what you will and will not accept that's going to be beneficial to you in the relationship. Because if you don't do it now, this is a small test of if you don't pass this and you just let her get the way that she wants, then later on when other things come up that you are against, she just knows that if she just cries a little bit and whines a little bit, she's going to get her way. And that could be to the detriment of the relationship if you're trying to stand ground on some stuff later on that she's trying not to get you to stand ground on, but that could actually prove to be harmful or hurtful to your relationship. All right? So do that now. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and get her to say, I love you a lot less. All right? So that's the episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and all the other previous episodes. Like I said, I'm doing these episodes once a week now in long form. If you want to get my shorter videos that kind of give us little relationship tidbits that'll still prove to be immensely helpful, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to at least 1,000 subscribers right now, guys, and I could really use your help. So go to youtube.com/HarryWilmington and subscribe today. Even if you don't subscribe, view the videos, like them, share them with your friends on various social media outlets, and get the word out about the show and about the work that I'm doing, okay? In the meantime, guys, go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. Check out the masterclass that I have right now that is all designed to help you figure out the 3 key elements that you really, really need to really jumpstart your dating life in a positive way. All right. Once again, free masterclass at introvertdatingsuccess.com. Also go there to check out my various programs. I got a program about how to do online dating. I got my full Introvert Dating Success Academy, which is a 12-week coaching 101 coaching thing that also has videos and audio modules that are all designed to really get you into the kind of man you need to be more bold, more fearless when you go into your interaction with women. And it'll teach you the dance of attraction, how do you go from meeting a woman to greeting her, taking her out, being able to have conversations with her that lead to relationships, knowing how to handle conflict resolution. And of course, that program comes with one-on-one coaching where I coach you once a week from a telephone call or from a Skype. We go into the deep dive of who you are as a dater right now and how we get you to that next level. If you're interested, all this stuff can be found at introvertdatingsuccess.com. Thank you so much for checking out this show, and I'll be back next week with another brand new episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm out. Peace.